Yeah, please tell us about the issue of military intervention, sir.
Right. And in one way, this ties in with everything else we've talked about. Obviously, the endless wars, police actions, interventionism that we've been involved with has been hugely expensive. I mean, tragically expensive. And I think on some level, it's a little bit horrifying the way politicians will spin this so that any individual who is opposed to us being involved in every single place in the world militarily is painted as unpatriotic or somehow vilifying America. What I think is unpatriotic is the idea that we would spend trillions of dollars in countries engaged in military actions that do nothing but leave them in more chaos and leave them a worse place than what we came. Frankly, that's not our job, and it's certainly not what we should aspire to. Just look at Syria, Libya, Yemen to a lesser extent. In one way or another, we've contributed to those disasters. Iraq has gone from being, ruled by a brutal dictator to seemingly a place where freedom might take root, to being ruled by nothing but chaos. We're not improving these places. I'm going to speak specifically to the Middle East because I think that's what we can all connect with the most. We've been involved in the Middle East in one capacity or another since the Cold War, since we started, arming Afghanis to fight the Soviets, and that one of those Afghanis being Osama bin Laden. But our chickens have come home to roost on this. Decades of failed policy in the Middle East have led to where we are now. Trillions of dollars spent, countless lives ruined, Americans dead for wars that we don't even understand. It's time to admit that we have no idea what the hell we're doing in the Middle East. We don't understand the culture there. We don't understand anything about the place, and it's time to stop trying to cram freedom down their throats, because freedom is something that you have to arrive at yourself. The Americans fought a bloody revolution for freedom. Nobody came and gave it to us. You can't simply give somebody freedom. Freedom has to be something that you discover yourself. This is pretty personal for me, too, because my brother serves in the armed forces. He's a airborne medic stationed in Anchorage, Alaska. And I hear these politicians in both parties talking about, well, we need boots in the ground in Syria, we need boots in the ground in Libya, here and there. Well, that's all well and good, but my brother's in two of those boots, and I have no interest in him being killed in some desert hellhole because some politician needed to pick up some votes. I'm not interested in that. And I sure as hell am not interested in him being killed because the Saudis wanted to make it a little bit easier to ship oil from one place to another. That's another issue that runs tangential to the issue of militarization around the world, is this idiotic policy of we're going to sell weapons to just whoever asks for them. But we just signed a multi-billion-dollar deal to give weapons to the Saudis that they're going to use to continue terrorizing the country of Yemen. You want to talk about a forgotten war? Talk about Yemen. That place is being obliterated in large part by the Saudis. It's every bit as terrible as the scenes that we see coming out of Aleppo. But we simply let it go by, and I'm not sure I understand exactly why we continue to put up with it. But America needs to get out of this mindset of we're always going to be at war. I understand that September 11th was a terrible thing, and we should never forget what happened. We should always be vigilant, but we've allowed it to shape every single part of our lives. We've given up our Fourth Amendment rights. We've given up, our right to peace. We've embroiled ourselves in continuous war every day of our lives since then. And it's time to slow down, stop, and just think for a moment that maybe there's another way. That maybe just because something terrible happened to us more than a decade ago doesn't mean that we need to put our entire future at risk. Because if that happens, the people who attacked us on September 11th, then they've won. Then they have won. So I'm not willing to surrender to those people. I'm not willing to surrender to politicians who tell me that my rights are secondary to somebody else's bloodlust.